Welcome to Creatives in Quarantine. I'm Tiwana Floyd, your host. This week, I speak with actor and producer Charlie Newell. Just before the quarantine, Charlie and his wife followed their instinct to leave LA and relocate to Atlanta for a farm and rural living for his kids to play and have a better life, and open their own production company, Marquee Media. Check out Charlie.
Oh, okay.
Charlie Newell. I know you as an actor.
Are we recording this?
Yes, I'm recording. I've been recording since you came to the room.
Sorry.
No, this is what happens. Like, it's a casual conversation.
Okay.
No need to apologize. We're casual here. But yeah, so I know you as an actor, and we met in the UCLA professional
Acting for Camera program.
Thank you. Professional Acting for Camera program.
Yes.
We spent 8 months with 16 people, really 32, but mostly 16 in our core unit. And most of us are still in contact to this day. That was what, 2016?
17.
17. Good with
Yeah.
dates. So we met there, and I know you as an actor, but I also know that you have many other creative talents as well.
Yes.
So let's see. How did you get to acting? How did
Acting?
you start?
Fourth grade.
Oh, wow.
Fourth grade, passion play for school. It was a religious school, and I just knew that I could play Pontius Pilate, and I wanted to be the villain. Everybody else wanted to be like Jesus or the disciples. I was like, I wanted to be Pilate, and I knew I would get it because I was like, I can channel this guy, and I got it, and I love the feeling I got from it. And you do some more plays and stuff, but fast forward, farted around in New York for a little while. College, I went to University of New Orleans, was in their acting program, and it was cool for what it was. And then when I was in University of New Orleans, there was a lot of productions in New Orleans at the time. I'm from New Orleans, by the way.
Right.
They had a lot of film come through town because of tax incentives, and the big name film came in town, All the King's Men. And Sean Penn was set the lead in it, Kate Winslet, Jude Law, James Gandolfini, Anthony Hopkins, all these big names. And I was waiting tables in the French Quarter, and I just threw out one of those message in a bottle prayers like, oh, I would love to work alongside Sean Penn.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard that they cast it, came and went, and of course I was an actor, and I saw that they had cattle calls for extras, and I'm like, I don't do extra work, And then that little voice inside said, yes, but you have no experience, so why don't you just go? So I went to a cattle call in a mall, and literally I was picked out by the casting director, and she said, you just have the look we need because we need a stand-in for Sean Penn.
Oh my gosh.
And you're his height and coloring, and would that interest you? You'd have to commit for the next 4 to 5 months. And I was like, let me think about it. Yeah. So 3 days later, I go on set, and in walks Sean Penn, Jude Law, James Gandolfini, and it's an Oscar-winning director, Oscar-winning cinematographer, and of course everybody else alongside. And that was my first real set experience, and I just showed up every day, minding my business. I quickly learned there's a lot of politics on set, and if you just shut up, do your job, people will appreciate you.
Yeah,
it's real simple. And I would be nice, because I saw people who weren't, and I was like, ugh. And then that paid off, because a few months later, the AD greeted me one morning at 7 a.m. 6 a.m. when you get on set or whatever, and was like, there's a van waiting for you to bring you to wardrobe. They're giving you a line. I was like, what? So that happened. I was in a scene with Sean Penn in the climax scene. Got my SAG card. I made $2,500 for the week, and I was just like, what? I'd never seen any money like that. They wound up cutting it out, but that gave me the impetus. And being on set to be like, I can do this at that level. Right. And that's what I noticed. I saw what they did, and it was really no different than the fourth grade.
Right.
In terms of have presence, know your words, and give a performance.
Yeah.
And I'm not discounting the people were special, some more than others,
Yeah.
some people you see and you're like, really? Okay. But anyway, I'm not going to go there. But it was about confidence for me. Like, I can do it at this level.
Mm-hmm.
And then fast forward, I moved to New York, and I didn't, I was a young pup. You lived in New York, of course. I didn't know what I wanted to be. I was just like, I couldn't even understand the difference between like stage acting and film acting at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was trying to do like, stage acting, thinking that would parlay into film acting, and it wasn't. And then my resources were kind of divided. And I'm not like a song and dance type of guy anyway, like and so eventually, I told my wife when we met in New York, I was like, if I'm going to do it, I need to go to LA. And went to LA. And literally, I was just like, okay, now what do I do? Kind of a thing, because it's so big and so overwhelming. And then I started researching programs at schools and blah, blah, blah. And I came across the UCLA program. I was like, this is interesting. Applied for it, did the interview just like you, and got in it. And that, for me, it's almost like Old Testament versus New Testament. It was just like a game changer, where it wasn't just in my head. I was like, I'm getting industry feedback from people who are helping me hone this thing. And I could do it at this professional level that I've seen. And we had incredible teachers and performers come in, like Wendell Pierce and
So many, right.
Amy Ryan, and stuff like that, where it was just like, okay, I needed that validation personally, but also the training to say like that I can walk on set and confidently just turn it on and give a performance that is professional and will work. So
Oh man, oh my goodness, this was really rich. I'm glad that I asked you this, because I knew part of the story, but I didn't know all of it. And I'm going to go back to 4th grade, because you mentioned having confidence. And
say hi to Tamara.
Oh, Tamara!
We're recording right now, so.
Oh, okay.
This
You
happened.
said it was casual. Can you take?
All right, Henry, come here.
This happens whether it's on here. I watch a couple of Deadline things and people in the room. There we are.
It's COVID, man.
That's right. We're not going to try to make it something else. But yeah, so going back to what you, because you mentioned confidence, and I was intrigued that in the 4th grade that you already knew the role that you wanted to play and had the confidence that you could summon that character. And so what do you think it was at that age that made you feel like, yeah, I'm going to go for that role, and I'm confident that I can get it because that speaks to me or whatever. Do you know what it was?
I remember who else wanted that role. There was one other kid, Sean Ballard, and I liked Sean. We were pals, but I was just like, you don't got it. I remember thinking this, you don't got it. I was drawn to villains.
Right.
I was weird in that I was early drawn to like monster movies, and I discovered Edgar Allan Poe, like the little, 4th grade read along book. And I was just like reading this, like couldn't put it down. So I knew that I could access something, I don't know, that I didn't see in my friend. And I just knew I could just pull it up. I don't know, 4th grade confidence, man. You don't know any better.
Yeah, no, yeah. We're
at that age.
Confident at that age. And then now fast forward to the film, and knowing that you wanted to work with Sean Penn, and then listening to that little voice that's like, just go to the open call, man, and like get off your high horse. Don't think that you're too big for this. It's like that's the second time that there was a little voice that told you to go do something, and then you listen to it. And so when you got to that open call, was it a lot of people?
It was hundreds.
Yeah.
It was a literal cattle call in a mall with, I don't know, I was in a lineup like 40 deep or something.
Mm-hmm. What time did you get there? Do you remember?
It was like in the evening.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just, the local casting was just, because there was a lot of scenes with a lot of extras in this film. A lot of crowd scenes. So they were really beefing that up. So yeah, to get picked out of that crowd like that, I felt it was like fortuitous.
Right. And so
Fate.
you were online And so you hadn't like gotten up to the table or whatever it was. They just were walking by and just plucked you out.
The assistants, and then I saw they were whispering, doing that, looking at me, and I was just like, I don't get those kind of looks. You know, people don't look at me and whisper. They see me, you know, not usually. So it was weird. Yeah. I don't know. It hasn't been like that every day since, but you know, the confidence thing is interesting because it's like you have confidence when you're younger. And I feel like we train ourselves as adults almost to lose confidence or to feel inferior. And then we look for validation, or we see this like system of Hollywood or whatever the system is, and we think it's this impenetrable thing. All those people have something that I don't. And we psych ourselves out, or we learn not to be confident. But I think confidence is one of the most primary things that you need in any really profession, but especially this game. Like if they get a whiff that you lack confidence, man, that's all it takes.
Yeah. And it's not even like the type of thing like blood in the water with sharks. It's just like it doesn't feel like they can trust that you trust yourself. And it's just like, I don't like that person, but there's just something that's missing, and it's the lack of confidence. Because like you said, being on that film, you learn rather quickly all the components, and then recognizing that you could also do this. But
I think there's the craft confidence you need that you learn.
Yeah,
that you do need feedback, professional feedback, I think.
Yes, I agree.
Unless you're just some Brando natural.
Yeah.
But you also need the soulish, I like me, I love myself confidence. Right. And I think that is actually more important because that feeds it can feed the professional, but we've all seen the professionals who have the professional confidence, but then they're assholes in real life because they don't have the I love myself confidence. So you need them both.
You do need them both. And it's not to say that it's not fleeting, because there are because there are the moments where we're doing really great, we're feeling, and we love ourselves and we're feeling confident, and then there's those moments where we just have those valleys where things are not happening, and then we start to question. I think that's any artist in any medium. We just start to question, and then hopefully we can find our way back. A lot of people don't, but hopefully we can find our way back at some point.
Therapy helps.
Therapy helps, yeah.
Therapy helps a lot.
Having a community of
community helps.
Yeah, who've been there and can talk about it honestly and authentically, and then you realize, oh, I'm not alone in this, and then just accepting it and moving forward.
Yeah.
So speaking of confidence, because I think stand-up comedy requires the most extreme confidence to not only write jokes in isolation with yourself as a independent, but then to say, you know what, I think this is pretty funny. I'm going to go try this out and get in front of a room full of strangers and see what happens. So at what point did you start to recognize that you wanted to do comedy or stand-up?
I should have done it way before I did it, but I lacked confidence.
Right.
I lacked the self-love, soulish confidence. Which is funny because a lot of comedians, I think, do what they do out of a need for validation. There's a lot of, this is no secret, like a lot of comedians are emotionally or kind of, lacking, or, and they'll make that a part of their act. So it is a form of therapy and things like that. Self-deprecation is one of the best forms of humor.
Yeah, we see that a lot, right?
And the audience appreciates because they're like, yes, we feel your pain because we are in pain as well with ourselves. So it took me well into my 30s to have the self-confidence to do that, because I was always the guy at parties or social situations that could make people laugh off the cuff. And I got into improv. I loved improv. I loved just going with the moment. So that was a step. And then I took a class in New York City, Tom Shalhoub, who's now a host on Fox, Red Eye or something like that. And he had opened for Jim Gaffigan. And then I was into Gaffigan at the time. And I was like, I took his class and he gave me great validation. And then part of the curriculum was you develop a 5-minute set and then you get on stage at the end. And it was and Joe Marquee closed us, and he's, really gained traction and stuff like that. So it was awesome. What didn't work for me, and it's hard for me, and this is a similar journey to Seth Rogen. I learned out later, because he also dabbled in stand-up comedy, but the lifestyle of stand-up comedy is very difficult. Like, you got to go to clubs late at night.
Right.
You got to travel circuits and play, frat houses in Rhode Island and things like that, or little bitty clubs and
audience or something.
Yeah, and it's just I came to grips with, like, I don't want to do that. I guess I got through it. I still like getting up and making people laugh and feel like I can do it, but I have kids and family, and and there is a bit of a bitterness among the stand-up community,
right?
That I didn't love it, and I was just like, I'm good. Well, but my real passion is storytelling and acting as part of storytelling. And I think I also did stand up to try to get noticed, because I'm like, well, this is a public audition. And who knows, maybe a casting director will come in and see me and be like, he's quirky, he's different. Never happened, but that's okay too. I ultimately did it for me, and I'm glad I did it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and so as you talk about that now, in terms of kind of making it an audition and a way to be seen, and then here we are, I think the longer that we stay in this craft, whether it's an actor, writer, no matter, at some point we want to start to have ownership.
Yes.
Because waiting for someone to call.
Waiting for Godot.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel good. And so now here we are in quarantine. And so while we've met in Los Angeles, but you are New Orleans.
Only people from outside New Orleans say that. That's okay though. We accept it.
Exactly. And so then you went to New York, and then came to LA, and then now went back to the South. And so we've had this conversation, but for anybody who could be watching, who may be trying to figure out what their next step is in terms of returning home in a way, what was the impetus for you to leave LA to go back south?
Oh, well, LA, you saw my kid. I have 2 kids and a wife, and we always dreamed of having a house. Let's just start there. And I can't tell you how many times we would go to open houses on the far reaches of LA County and be like a starter house on the bad side of Montrose or Monrovia or somewhere,
Right.
way over there. We're like $700,000, and we would be depressed and discouraged.
Right.
And then the backyard is as big as, a dog kennel, and it's like, so my kids can squeeze in there, and it just began to not make sense. I also believe, like, there's this concept of out of death comes a life. Like, unless a seed falls to the ground and dies, nothing grows from that seed. And I feel like I've been through so many of these iterations of dying and death in my career, in my life, and it's like letting things go. And leaving LA was like a death for me, because I had a great community of people like yourself that I loved, and I had a lot of friends. We very quickly built friends. People talk about LA. New York talks about LA behind its back, right? They're people used to tell us, "Oh, people in LA don't read books."
Yeah,
like literally would say that.
Right.
Like, goodness, we not only read books in LA, we read scripts and write scripts and stuff like that. So, there's that aspect of it, letting it go, dying. We were like, let's just go out east, and we literally didn't know where we were going. We were like, I heard they film in Wilmington. Let's go check out Wilmington. We didn't really love it. It's nice beaches, nice town, but it was just not for us. We checked out Charleston, also very beautiful, very grand, just didn't feel right. And as a last minute, it's like, it didn't even register with me, Atlanta. And we were like, let's just go cross it off the list. We had some friends, Marietta, and we were like, wow, this is amazing. This is a beautiful area. Wow, you can get a 4-bedroom house on an acre for $300,000. Wow, they filmed 70 something TV shows and films here last year. Wow, and it's like all this began to just go like bing, 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 bing. So we moved here and we love it. It's beautiful. Like we're renting a farm, a 5-acre farm for like $900 less than what we were renting a 2-bedroom apartment in Pasadena.
Right.
A 5-acre farm with 4 bedrooms.
Yeah.
So it's good. My family's thriving. COVID has definitely put a weird spin on everybody's life. But that's everywhere. It's not just here. But and we've decided we want to kind of live a rural life. We want to get chickens. We want to get bees, and I don't know. We're having fun.
I think that's the way to go. Also, not with just the uncertainty of the way the world is going, but also the way food and
yes,
has been so weird. So like me and Lamar, me and my boyfriend are also talking about home, and then also gardening and growing our own food because we don't know, and we should just live off the land in a way, not fully, but find a way to cultivate those skills that used to be part of all of our ancestry.
Oh, listen, this is becoming central in our conversation. And it's also done a good thing in that, like, I think a lot of actors in LA, especially, you can put it in this central place of your life. Like, this is the most important thing. And I don't think anything should hold that, like, except like the more sacred things of God, if you believe in God, family, relationships, those should be the center. And so it kind of displaced it, but it also fed the creativity and it gave me more time to write. I'm writing my 2nd pilot right now. I finished a 3rd draft of my 1st pilot. I just sent it to producers out in LA.
Right. Yeah.
I have another friend who has production connections out here, and he's like, I think we need to get this into fill in the blanks major studio.
Right.
You use your imagination. I'm like, okay, that's cool. But I'm like, I still just want the dream of having a farm and land and yeah, growing our own food and being connected to the land and cracks in the food chain, scary stuff. Mm-hmm. Toilet paper, we can get around that, but like food,
right.
Scary. I'm glad you and Lamar are having that conversation.
Yeah, we've been having it for a while, and of course we're still in LA, so we do want to buy a house here, and then branch out later. But yeah, there's the whole looking at the market. But let me see. Oh, I love that you're talking about, because we don't have to be here anymore. I'm reading articles about not just in the entertainment industry, but in all fields, that people don't have to live in that city anymore. Because working remote is going to kind of be the new thing as people start to realize that. But I love that you recognize that acting is not at the forefront. It's not the main thing. Oh, what's that?
And part of that, we invested in a really good camera. We bought a 4K.
That's right.
And we're creating. We're making things happen. And I mentioned, like, I'm trying to drum up some production business. I'm calling businesses. I'm saying, hey, we can film stuff for you, blah, blah, blah. And we might have our first client.
And because you started a production company.
Yeah.
And what's the name of the company, just in case?
Marquee Media.
There we go.
Marquee.media is the URL. But
yeah. You talked about the, it's like the releasing, and one of the things that I started this is because I noticed for myself that I pulled myself out of the zeitgeist of trying to keep up with these casting directors and wanting them to do this or whatever. It felt out of my control, and it was just exhausting, especially dealing with a pandemic. And the moment that I pulled out of that, the more opportunities started to happen, but my creativity blossomed. Yes. And so, like, this whole, Creatives in Quarantine came out of meditation, because I was like, what are my friends doing who are not trying to stay in that rat race? Because the rat race is not going to be how we're going to be operating next. I mean, it will always exist.
Yeah.
But for those of us who have grown tired of that and letting that whole foundation crumble as we create our own, I'm interested in hearing from you guys.
Oh, man.
That's why I'm here.
You posted actually not long ago about the creator of that show. I'm blanking on it.
Oh, Tiwana Jackson.
Yes. And she went to Netflix and they're like, we have to own it all. And she said no.
It's a guy who did. Actually, it's Ramani Malco, who you probably know him from 40-Year-Old Virgin. That was my first introduction to him, but does a lot of comedy, episodes, whatever. But yes.
Having the cojones to say no because of owning your own content, at least partially. And yeah, creating wealth, creating a piece of the pie. And that's where I think I want to go with it. And I've been through the whole trying to get in this casting director's office and then finally getting in there and being like, literally having a 1-sentence audition and never hearing from them and getting mad and bitter and like, but then I have more empathy for them because I'm like, somebody described it recently to me. It's like, from their perspective, it's almost like an episode of The Walking Dead where a herd sees you and they're all running at you and you're fresh meat. And that's what a casting director feels like. Actors are always trying to just devour them. And so I don't blame them for, what they are.
Yeah, same here. And yeah, because there are a lot of our peers who don't operate from a sense of authenticity. It's always, how can I get something? But speaking to what you were saying in terms of, yeah, there's that one line, but then if we're only making that the focus, then that one line audition just means everything. And then when nothing happens, it's devastating. Then you're over here creating your own thing, and then you get that one line, you're like, oh, okay, let me schedule that in. You go do that real quick, and then there's joy, and then it's ease and it's grace, and then you start getting more action, even though, yeah, you're putting energy towards that, but the focus is really on the creation of what you're creating. So I guess it's almost like not having a desperation for that one line, which I've been there and probably can fluctuate back and forth between that.
It's hard not to, though.
Activity, yeah.
It's hard not to feel that when you're not seemingly going anywhere. The funny thing is, though, we watched, the episode was released like a couple of months ago, and we watched the episode of the show, and the choice of actor was totally different. It was like someone a lot older than, and you're just like, you looked at the room, and I'm like, I see. See, they see things totally different. They're like trying to balance a whole lot of different variables, right? Yeah. And I was just like, okay, whatever. It is what it is. This guy was a lot older than me. They just wanted something different.
Yeah, and as you talk about that, the variables, I think, one casting director put it very sweetly by saying that we actors, we operate in a vacuum. So, but we don't know the scope of all of the, like you were saying, the variables that go into choosing the right actor to be, even the right director or the casting director, but making the components fit, because maybe they've got this lead actor, and so now they have to create a world that supports that person, and then maybe that actor can't do the work, whatever could happen, and then changes everything. So it's like, they're creating as they go, and we don't know that because we're not in the room. We're just like, well, I'm perfect for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were perfect for it when they brought us in, and then it changed, or who knows.
So control the variables. Be the person controlling the variables. It's a much better place to be.
It's a much better place to be,
I think.
So yeah, so you guys have you've been doing that in your quarantine, and also there's a few people, there's more than a few people, but there's like maybe a good 20 people whose Instagram I enjoy watching because there's something inspirational about it. And so what I love about your Instagram is it's usually you and the family on some nature excursion, finding all kinds of, wait, what did your son find? It was something I'd never heard of. I think it was like a bug or something, and he always wanted to find one.
Oh no, it was a salamander.
It's a salamander.
We
Yeah.
found a salamander. Yeah, right in the back here.
Oh, he was excited.
Yeah. We're just always finding creatures, box turtles, snakes.
Yeah.
Snake in our living room, actually.
That's one. That's, yeah.
Yeah, it's Georgia, man. You know. But I'm a Louisiana boy, so I was just like,
That's perfect for you. And it's great because then it teaches the kids not to be afraid by the way you react to it.
Yeah, they were all on the couch. They were going nuts. Led by Tamara.
Oh, well, that's what it is.
That's what it is, but yeah.
So during this quarantine, has there been anything that's inspired you, whether it's music, even a favorite dish, podcast, book, film,
Yeah.
show?
You know, it's funny because I feel like there's so much. I feel like the world needed a rest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When the animals started coming out again and the water apparently ran clear in Venice and stuff, you're like, oh man. And then I began to enjoy it a lot. I think out of that rest, I was able to create more, certainly. Um, there's not been one thing that I've been like, oh, we're rewatching some old shows. We've certainly had our moments of just eating barbecue potato chips and just wanting to watch shows, but I feel productivity stirring again, and I'm antsy, but in a good way. I've let go of the negative, like feeling sorry for myself and trying to find joy in nothing particular, joy from within, choosing joy. So I think I'm getting that from, my family. I know it doesn't sound sparkly or.
Doesn't have
Oh,
to be sparkly. It's what brings
I did. I can recommend highly the masterclass of David Mamet. That was.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
You are the third person? Yes, who is participating in the masterclass catalog.
yeah.
And I haven't watched that one yet, but I do.
I did his start to finish. He's the only one. A couple of them I've started. I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
David Mamet's.
Okay.
But he drops wisdom for life
Ooh.
on every episode, and it's just this guy could just sit and talk, and I would just listen to him. So that was the most inspiring thing I've seen during this.
Okay, great. I will definitely check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, talking about how the world needed a break. We didn't realize it. We've just been going. And now to have such a severe halt, first of all, caused many emotions for us, which I'm still ebbing and flowing. I could be like eager in the morning, like, oh, great, things done. And then the next day, like,
You're crying.
or eating potato chips and allowing myself that space to do that. But yeah, I think you're right where we just needed a pause. And although a lot of people are not being able to survive on, unemployment, the stimulus or whatever, but
I'm on unemployment still.
Yeah. But there's some people who their overhead was just so high that even this doesn't help, But I think it's allowing people to think about what's next for their lives, and and then putting something into place. Now, there was one person I talked to who, because he's a gig worker, and at first, I think the unemployment for 1099 was at the PUA, or I can't remember, was not available. And so he had to start to get creative about, how he's going to earn a living. And he's a painter and started selling his paintings, and people were hiring him to do storyboards or whatever. So he was still staying active, but there was that little worry of concern of, okay, how am I going to stay afloat during this time? And then once that unemployment for gig workers kicked in, then he was able to that little fear part could go away. And then he started to write because now he can create. And I think that there's something really needs to be recognized about recognizing that artists just need a little support because we've all relied on artists during this pandemic. So
Seriously.
if there were things in place to
Universal basic income.
yeah.
Exactly. I've never really seriously considered that, but like having been on unemployment for 10 months now,
Yeah.
because I was unemployed before this,
Right.
and this just exacerbated it because getting a job in this environment is just, it's crazy. It's hard. I've applied to over like 200 jobs, but maybe, you know, God or the universe or whoever is sending me a message saying, that's not what you're supposed to be doing. That's not what you're supposed to be doing. And yet we've had our needs met. But yeah, it's funny you say that, like artists are propping up the society. Like if people didn't have entertainment right now, people would be going bloody nuts.
Right. And it's the same thing when the what was it in the 20s where oh my gosh, I'm completely blanking. After the war, there was
The Depression?
the depression. I'm like, the repression, the depression.
Yeah.
And so people were still getting 5 cents, 10 cents together to go to movies.
Man.
Because you need to escape. You need something to allow your mind to think about something else and be entertained. So you're not constant barrage of thinking about where
I'm excited to see the kind of art that's going to be birthed out of this. Now, I mean, there's obviously going to be like the, you know, quarantine / virus movies and stuff like that. People are going to be like, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think allowing artists time to dig deep and to actually, or people who like your friend who didn't have time to write but now has, I'm hoping there's going to be like a renaissance of things that come out. Yeah, it's funny. We're seeing like the good, the bad, and the ugly of all facets of society, because it's like we finally have stopped so much that it's like everybody is looking intently at ourselves, at each other, and it's like there's nowhere else to go.
No.
So
But like inward.
Yeah. And my hope is that out of this chaos, there's going to be fruitfulness, though, at a societal level. And yeah, if it includes universal basic income and things like that, I mean, because it's a scary time. It's a scary time for a lot of people.
I know.
Or in God, I've known people who have gotten the virus, and it was scary for them.
Right.
I know people who have lost people. It's just.
Right.
It's crazy. I've never experienced a year like this.
I know. I like when at the onset of it, the first thing I thought of was that I've experienced was 9/11, but this is different, definitely in a way. But there are many people still dying.
Yeah.
And then we have it was that moment of uncertainty when those towers were hit. So it was like, what is happening in the world now?
Yeah.
And then that lasted for so many years with our troops in Afghanistan and over there. And they just come back like last year.
Yeah.
So it's just a moment of we don't know. We'll just wait and see.
No.
Births from this, but yeah. So in the quarantine, well, how do you find, especially now that you and Tamara are creating a production company, how do you find, and probably it's easier too because there's more time in our hands, but how do you find balance with having a family and then creating and building a new business?
Yeah, I mean, thankfully there's no real demand on our business yet, so that's it's mostly just I'm trying to generate. I'm literally Googling local businesses and cold calling them is a lot of it. So that's, you can only do that for so long.
You're
right?
you're so good at that. You're great at cold calling. Like, it's so old school, but it's still a really great space to live as a burgeoning business.
I think you have to.
Yeah.
I think you have to. I mean, you can do the Google AdWords and stuff, and that helps build your website, blah, blah, blah. But you need to, I think the key word is connecting with human beings. Because on the other side is a human being, and you're like, oh, you live in this part of Georgia, I'm in this part of Georgia. I'm a local business owner. I'm just calling to see, can I help you with this service?
Yeah.
And that's it. And I just heard back. I think I called 125 businesses or so and sent dozens of follow-up emails to those businesses. And so hundreds of contacts, and finally just heard one back, one. But one could change the business.
Right.
I don't want to be cold calling forever, man, but it's like, it's just human to human, right? Humans have needs. Businesses have needs. It's finding that, not being a jerk, and just saying, hi, I'm Charlie. I just want to see if I can help you. I'm a business owner, and people will appreciate you doing it at that level, because like, okay, this guy's hustling. I'm just trying to feed my family. I'm just trying to.
There's a respect. Yeah.
And I've had people be like, yeah, I'm not interested in that, but thank you. Okay, thank you. All the best. It's just like acting. You just have to deal with rejection mentally first, and just be like, I'm probably going to get rejected today, but that's all right. I'm putting myself out there. My hope is that, I think the universe is programmed to respond to these efforts of planting seeds.
I agree.
It does not respond to laziness. It does not respond to waiting for things to come to me.
Inactivity. Yeah.
It doesn't. It's the law of sowing and reaping.
Energy. Exactly. Yeah.
So I just look at it as that. Like, can I plant a seed?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. You're good at that. Lamar is good at that. I know a few people who are great, and because it's a lost business form, a lot of people don't do it, but it's still very a potent way to get access. And I was listening to a podcast with Byron Allen, and that's how he started his company many years ago. Was sitting and every day making tons of phone calls.
It's hard.
And, yeah.
It's just it's discouraging. It's lonely. It's all of that.
Yeah.
I mean, but every entrepreneur that you can think of, and even filmmaker, like, has a story. I just reread Tyler Perry's story. I mean, the guy was living in his car and on friends' couches, just to not even make a film, a play.
Yeah.
And then he put it on, and nobody showed up.
Right. Yeah.
And he did that like a couple of times and spent all his money before people actually showed up. And it's like, that's what I'm saying. Like, the universe is programmed to respond to not just effort, but also persistence.
Right. And also choices, because there was a moment, I believe,
choices,
where he was working a new job, or he was at a job and he had to go to either rehearsal or to open the show, and they would not let him go. And he said, and they were like, if you leave, you'll be terminated. And he said, well, I got to go. So he chose his dream over this position.
Life is short, man. It's like, why not? But I told my wife, I was like, put on my gravestone, if nothing happens, at least he tried,
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want to die with my boots on, man. At least I freaking tried. And there's no guarantees of success. We were talking about it last night with tears in our eyes, like saying, there's a possibility that our life is just going to be a mundane life. There is.
Yeah.
You have to have that conversation, but it's like, and then, but it was, can we still choose joy in the midst of it? And it's like, I want to choose joy no matter what, because it's like, I don't want to be some grumpy asswipe around my family. And my kids grow up thinking, oh, who is this guy? He's just a grumpy jerk.
Right.
It's hard, but I want to choose joy in the midst of this.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point that you bring up, because especially as we get older, and if you think about Hollywood usually bolsters the youth, and so then it's like, okay, but what about us people who may be middle aged, or even baby boomers who are just now coming into this? And so then, if we don't take the moment to say, it's a possibility that I may never be this celebrity that everybody kind of like desires to be. But if I never get there, can I still have a fruitful life? And then the choice to say yes, and then live from there, and then just see what magic happens from there. But no matter what, you're always choosing joy and staying and operating from that. And that energy pulls in, more opportunities. We just don't know what it will
I
look
hope
like,
so.
how big.
We don't know what it looks like.
Yeah, but we just keep, trugging along, and the opportunity. And I can say that because I've been in LA for 15 years now, and it's like I just keep my nose to the ground and do the work and create opportunities and reach out to people, just like I did here in so many other ways, and recognizing that every time I do that, something magical happens that I couldn't even envision to happen.
Yeah.
So it's just being truthful and authentic with yourself. It's like, even if I don't get that, I'm still going to be okay.
Well, it's like you have to get in touch with another purpose of why, though, I think. Because before, my motives were about me and my career and making money and being famous and blah, 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 and blah, blah. But it's like, what has happened to me on this ride? I've met people like you.
Yeah.
I've met people like Shelly, like Patricia, like Misty. You're smiling because you know these people, and we had a shared experience together, and we fell in love with each other as friends during this time. And that experience of knowing these people and loving these people was so golden. I wouldn't trade that for an Oscar. I wouldn't. Now, an Oscar would be nice on top of that, but
Yeah.
And it's like, so the purpose I found out is not the purpose maybe that I thought. Maybe the purpose is it's cheesy, but love. Maybe the purpose is I'm there to connect with these brilliant people, to create with them, to watch them create.
That is it.
And to live in a place of love. And if something that we think is success comes out of that, then that'd be cool.
Mm-hmm.
But it's shifted inside of me that I don't need the other thing to make me complete.
I love that.
So, and if I didn't come to that conclusion, I probably would have had a breakdown.
Yeah.
Because you can't live in that me zone, because when that fails, you just crumble. And I've had those moments where I've crumbled, and then I had to learn to live out of surrender to everything that's
Yeah.
Oh.
I think of surrender. It's always an exhale, because
It is.
now I can just give it over to whatever entity I believe in and stop trying to control it.
I literally would have had a breakdown if I hadn't.
Yes. Yeah. Which is what happens, and people do. Because I've been here long enough, I know people who have committed suicide. I know people who have moved back home with unfulfilled, because the dream that they thought that they were going for didn't happen. But the dream is happening if we stay here, but it's evolving and it's morphing and it's still enjoyable. I read an article one time about the Roots, the hip hop band, and Questlove talked about enjoying the journey. And he said they had more fun, not to say that they're not having fun where they are now.
Yeah.
There was more of a cohesiveness, of a drive, when they were just making mixtapes and writing their information on it and stuffing envelopes and sending them to people. Like that part of it, because not to say that right now is coming easy, but there was something to be said about the journey, and we got to enjoy it, because that's where the creation has been happening. So
that's amazing.
Gotta enjoy the journey.
I love those stories.
Yeah, I do too. I
love them.
And then see where they are now, and of course they are still creating, and they don't have to worry about financial issues. Well, probably do, because as we get to a certain level, but for the most part they can create even larger, but it's about allowing it to morph into something new.
Yeah. I would like to continue the whole journey from the perspective of loving and connecting with creative people just for that sake. Yes. And then have that be fruitful, because I think that can be blessed and parlay into success. And I mean, let's be honest, finances do matter in this. We live in an economic world. You can't say it doesn't. That's another fallacy among artists. That's bullshit. You have to have, and I know you are a business minded person because you always, and that's one of the reasons we connected is you always, you have the business mindset that you need for that. So you can't just be, oh, I'm an artist and that doesn't, relate to my art. That's bullshit. You need to, if you're going to write something that has some commercial viability.
Yeah. Right. You could do both. You could write something that has some commercial viability, and you can write something that's completely independent.
You could.
Yeah.
Does the world need another Ingmar Bergman? Probably not, but you could do that.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I just lost my train of thought because I can hear the gardener right now, and I'm like, they don't normally come on a Tuesday. What is he even doing out there?
I thought that was Lamar doing his meditation.
Right. Yeah. That's how. Yeah. It's gosh, what was my thought? Coming back to So creativity and what you said. You said community.
Business.
Yeah, it was on those lines of business, and now it got blown away by the blower.
Well, that you can't just have this, artistic high-mindedness. Like you need to have common sense and business sense,
right?
Or you won't be successful.
Yeah.
So.
But even there, that's an argument because then it depends on what success is for the person.
True.
Like, I've been watching a lot of, well, not a lot, but I watched 2 Basquiat documentaries, and the capitalist part was not what he really desired. Now, yes, he embraced it, but I don't think it truly made him happy. So, success it's kind of like beauty; it's in the eye of the beholder.
I could do with a little money, so.
I know what I was going to say. One of my good friends, Dr. Marissa Pay. Oh my gosh, I got to reach out to her. She'd be a great person to talk to. She is a behavioralist. Oh goodness, I'm gonna butcher it, but she's a psychologist, and she I feel like it has something to do with infrastructure. Well, I'll talk to her and she can tell us what it is. But anyway, we went on a cruise to Australia, and she brought a box full of DVDs because she practices Tai Chi and she teaches it. And she told everybody on the boat, I'm going to be on whatever, Lido deck. I'm thinking of the Love Boat. But she was on the main deck somewhere, 6 o'clock in the morning, doing free Tai Chi. And so people would get up because we have nothing to do. And we go on there, and it was beautiful. We're on the ocean, the air, the sea air, the sun is shining, and she's taking us through Tai Chi. And then at the end, people will come and talk to her, and she's like, oh, well, I have DVDs. And so she sold all her DVDs and practically paid for her trip by doing it. And this is just her art form. But there was a moment where we were in Fiji, and we were in a mud bath, and because it was a South Pacific trip, there weren't that many Americans. It was mostly Australians and New Zealanders. And somebody found out that we were from America, and this woman said to her, oh, you Americans, you're always worried about money, and everything's about money, money, money. Oh, like, just so disgusted with her. And so Marissa just calmly said, well, there's nothing wrong with money, because the things that I do in the world, I help people. And I can't help people if I don't have the money to create the things that I need to create, because I can't buy these DVDs if I don't have the money to do it, because that came out of her pocket. So once she explained to the woman that money is not just about capitalism, but it's also about how you can help people. And then the woman said, oh, I never thought of it that way. And I hadn't thought of it that way until Dr. Marissa elegantly put it, because she's unapologetic about earning a great living. Because she helps people in the world. She has a syndicated radio station that's dealing with all, ancient wisdom principles and the universal principles, things like that. But she had to put that money up front to be able to do it. So
you have to acknowledge that part. I mean, you can't help people without money.
Right.
If you don't have money, you're the person who needs help.
So no, it's
So there's nothing wrong with all that. That's cool.
so you have something in the works. We're not going to talk about it now because it's brewing, it's cooking, and
Yeah.
confidentiality and
Yeah.
keeping it private. I love the thing that Will Smith says about keeping your dream like a lit candle, and you have to protect that flame.
Yes.
Don't tell everybody about it. I love that idea. Is there anything that you want to share with us that I can add here or to look forward to right now?
Not really.
And that's fine too.
I'm working on a lot of stuff, but I'm not ready to pitch it publicly.
I understood. I understand.
I literally emailed my script an hour ago to a producer's office, a very big producer's office. You know him. He came and spoke to us.
All right, that makes sense. I almost
Yes.
brought that conversation up, so I won't even bring that conversation up then.
So it's putting myself out there, and it's like, it's my third draft. So I've already had a lot of feedback on it, and I think it's pretty near production ready.
Yes.
It's not going to be everybody's taste, but I feel like it could do something. Then that's the funny thing about our business. Like you just have to be, you can't talk about it until it's time. It's just like,
yeah. Nobody knows that I'm doing this. The only people who know that I'm doing these conversations are the people
awesome.
who are invited to talk.
Wow. When are you putting this out there?
Labor Day. Labor Day will be the first.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but nobody else. I mean,
you are creating just a ton of stuff. Improv on
that's right. Yeah.
YouTube and
you hire. Yeah.
That's just amazing.
That just came out of us just wanting to have fun. It was like another community like UCLA where we were training for 3 months, but twice a week, and we'd bring food. We would take turns bringing food every class. So food unifies people, but another community of 16 people, must be something magic in 16. Just wanted to stay in touch.
Yeah.
And it's not the entire 16, but the people who decided that they wanted to participate. And we meet every Thursday and film something and talk crap and have fun. Yeah. Just create. And it just feels good, again, to take ownership and create our own things.
Yeah.
With we have no idea where it's going. Just playing around. That's
none of us do. And at least you're doing it though.
Yeah. That goes for both of us.
Yeah.
Charlie, thank you for coming.
Hug. Oh, love you, Tiwana.
Love you too, man.
Thank you for watching Creatives in Quarantine. I hope you enjoyed that conversation that Charlie and I had. We talked a lot about acting. We talked about intuitive hits. And more importantly, we talked about what makes us feel good. If you learned anything new, please subscribe. See you soon.